This is going to be a very slightly different type of video. This will be the first my thoughts on something that isn't a game. This is going to be my thoughts on Star Wars The Last Jedi. Now, I did enjoy the film. I have watched it twice. I didn't think it was bad, but I definitely thought that like the one that came out right before it, not Rogue One, the one before that, was better. Now, a lot of people say it's because the director changed and other things like that. And I'm not entirely sure. Um, I'm not gonna blame it all on this single director. I don't really know if it was really him that completely ruined it or something else happened. I don't really know. But yeah. Basically, I'm just going to do like my thoughts with this and how I think that they could have done it maybe a wee bit better. And things that I hope that they don't do. So to start things off, when it first starts, they're like running away from the base. Oh, yeah, and that this too. I'm gonna put a giant spoiler warning in front of this. There will be nothing but spoilers. That is, will be the entire video is just spoilers and nothing else. And because of that, yeah, just don't watch it if you haven't seen the film already, or if you don't really care to see it, then, I guess you can. But to start off the entire movie, it goes with, like, the rebels trying to abandon their base, but then, this gentleman right here, Poe, he attacks, like, their main juggernaut all on his own, and then because of that, they get distracted enough where the rebels get away with no damage. But in the process, he also decides to take down the Juggernaut. So this person, Peggy, went and was inside a bomber, and they decided to like bomb it with however many bomber ships that they had at the time. And basically they succeeded in killing it, but they lost a very large squad and all of their bomber fleet, and meaning that girl died. Which then later on introduces us to her sister, who is this girl right here, who is Rose. I just like wanted to show you guys that this is what they actually are on all inside the actual movie. That's why I have it down there. And like she's crying later on, but that's in a little bit. But then one thing we're getting to the point where I didn't like is they come back into their ship, like Poe does. And when he gets in there, he sees Finn, because in the first movie, Finn went into a coma. And then Finn immediately woke up. So I don't really know what decision it was of theirs to like do that. But I'm fine with him waking up, because I didn't really like the idea of him going into a coma in the first place. But at the same time, I don't understand the point of him going into a coma if he's just immediately back up. Like, just why not keep him awake? I guess it would make Rey leaving easier, because like he didn't really know about any of that until like later on into the film. But that's really about it. That's like the first gripe I have with it, is that he was into a coma and then immediately woke up for just hex, and yeah, for kicks and giggles, not hex. And then he's trying to escape and blah blah blah, because the rebels actually got tracked through hyperspace, and because of that, they were just like waiting for Rey to return with Luke Skywalker. And he was trying to escape, but then like what's her face, Rose, stops him and blah blah blah. And then they come up with a plan to like save themselves by disabling the tracker and then going into hyperspace. And none of this I really have any gripes with. But then I'm gonna like cut a little bit here. When they were inside, they went to another planet to find this master hacker. Now, they didn't even find the master hacker. They found this random guy who is a master hacker, and Yeah. So I guess like he potentially could have been the master hacker and he just lost what he had because they found him in a jail cell and all. But I don't understand. They didn't really make that clear because the guy that they were originally looking for had a pendant, a rose pendant, and they did find a guy that had that, but then he was gambling, and then they got thrown in jail, and then they found the other guy, and then this other guy they um, teamed up with, and then he became their master hacker. Now he was a master hacker for whatever reason. How they find a master hacker when it's not even the guy they're looking for, I don't know. But yeah, and then he's definitely going to come back into the next film. Like, if he doesn't, that will be a gripe I have for the next film. They better bring him back because, like, in the movie, he talked a lot about how, like, good and evil are basically the same thing. Well, I guess that's kind of a stretch of what he was saying, to be truthful. He mentioned how, like, these rich people were buying or selling all their goods from war to the bad guys, but then a few of them were also selling their ships to the good guys as well. And he always said, like, you got, towards the end when he's leaving because he cut a deal and actually betrayed them, when he's leaving, he said, like, you blow them up today, they'll blow you up tomorrow. Or they'll blow you up today, you blow them up tomorrow. Just like it's a constant, never-ending back and forth, which is why I was saying like they're the same thing, but I guess same thing is just like the wrong word. More like it's just like a constant back and forth that'll never really end. Like there will always be evil to good and good to evil. So they better bring him back. I didn't really, yeah, but I still back to like the original point. I don't like the fact that he wasn't their master hacker, but they just so happened to find him. I was happy with the fact of them like bringing up all that stuff with like those rich people that got rich off of selling evil things, or well, I guess like just war profiting really, and stuff like that. Like I liked that whole aspect of bringing that into it with those children that were like slaves, and then how the weird type of horses was being like in a way tortured, but just like kind of held captive and forced to race. And I like how they like brought that in to like just kind of emphasize the evil bit. Plus, it caused some bonding between Rose and Finn. But yeah, and then like later on they kiss and all, blah blah blah. But then Rose goes into like shock or something, not like a coma. Not a coma-ish state. She was just like injured and then fell asleep. So I'm assuming those two are going to build up from there. Hopefully, you know, Rose won't just wake up immediately like Finn did. I don't know. Actually, since she didn't actually go into a coma, I guess she could just wake up right away. Now, into a different direction, we go to the Rey side of things with Luke Skywalker. Now, I was happy at the fact that he started to train Rey and that we started to get some backstory on Kylo Ren. Now, I'm not happy about why Kylo Ren is evil, the fact that it was just a big misunderstanding. So, I know I'm getting a little off of the Rey topic, but still. What happened was Luke sensed evil, or more like he sensed that Kylo Ren had a lot of power, so he went to check it out. And when he checked it out, he realized that Supreme Leader Snoke, this guy, had like corrupted him already, and he was already turning to the dark side. Kylo Ren was. So then they decided to he like activated his lightsaber thinking, okay, I could just kill him right now. But then he like stopped and he realized that, okay, this might be a bad idea, and he was just kind of like staring at his lightsaber being like, I don't really think I should do this. But then Kylo Ren woke up and saw that his master, the person he believed in, was going to try to kill him. Well, that's what he thought. And then like pulled in his lightsaber and then knocked out Luke Skywalker, and then left and became evil. Now, I don't like the fact that that's what turned him evil. Like, really? He had a simple misunderstanding between the two of them? One guy, Luke, had a lapse of judgment, didn't even actually do anything yet. Kylo Ren had just saw him in the act and then just said, "Okay, I better fight back." Because Kylo Ren technically striked first, like because he's the one that swung towards Luke. Luke did have his lightsaber active, but he wasn't swinging. And because of that, I don't like the fact that like just a big misunderstanding caused the main bad guy to be the main bad guy. Now we go back into this. I don't like that like Luke and Rey, or I do like the fact that Luke was training Rey. I don't like the fact that he didn't get through, or she did not get through all of his lessons. Like, there was going to be one lesson a day. She went through the first lesson. She started the second lesson. And that was it. That was it. They didn't get to a third lesson. I want to know what the heck the third lesson was. Like, the second lesson was actually kind of stupid. The first lesson was just understanding the Force. The second lesson was understanding that the Jedi always lose, I guess, in simplest terms, because he talks about how even in the peak of the Jedi strength, they let the enemy slip right underneath them and take them and wipe them out. So yeah, I guess and there was like a bigger theme behind it, but I don't know the entire bigger theme. They didn't really spend much time on it. But yeah, and I do like the fact that like Rey was trying to get Kylo Ren back on her side so they could team up and actually be like friends and they could both be part of the good side. And I like that. While it was happening on the island. And the little cute little monsters, the penguin bird looking things, was the best idea ever. Whoever thought of adding those in there for like the comedic reasons and all, he's a smart man. Or she, whoever the heck added those in there. But that's besides the point. But I don't like the fact that she immediately jumped into like the dark cave or whatever. I wanted that whole like Luke and her to be a wee bit different, I guess, and I think it would have been better if it was a wee bit different. And that she like jumped into the cave and then she didn't really find out her parents and she talked to that like glass wall. And that like nothing really came of it except for kind of like despair of not knowing who her parents is. And that's supposed to be like the dark side of the Force right there. Okay. So, but what I wanted that experience to be like is they even like hinted towards it and then decided, nah, is they showed Luke's ship underwater. What I wish that they did was when Luke was getting trained by Master Yoda. How they had to like trek through the forest, and then Luke had to go and fight his greatest evil, which was Darth Vader, inside the like the stump of the tree in the dark area. Like you had all the elements of it there, and you decided not to do it. Like what you easily could have done is that Rey was being trained, and then right before the end of her training, he actually, instead of sending like she jumping down the pit, she willingly, or falling down the pit, she willingly jumps down it upon Luke's request to fight her like #1 evil. And it can be, I guess, like not knowing who her parents is, or she can fight herself or something along that line. Because I think like herself is her biggest withdrawal, and like not knowing her parents and everything. So she could have just like fought herself in there, and then she could have defeated herself, and then she had like just a better understanding. She didn't care much about her parents type deal, and she just kept going. And then she walked over and got Luke's ship out. Now, then that would have really changed the entire rest of the movie. Because they introduced Poe, like Leia. Okay, we're gonna backtrack a little bit here. Leia was kind of put into like a stasis state because the headquarters for their ship was blown up and she was flung outside. Now, I think she should have either died or got saved by Luke at that point. I do not like the direction that they took it in at all. Her using the Force to, like, bring herself back was the most ridiculous thing, worst idea ever. Okay, there was one other thing that happened in this movie that I hated more than that, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But the fact that she, one, used the Force when she's never once been able to use it before. um, like, I understand she got the Skywalker blood and all. Well, I guess technically not Skywalker blood, whatever. She got the Vader blood. Yeah, it is. Yeah, isn't it? Yeah, it's a Skywalker blood. But yeah, I understand that she has the blood and that she's strong with the Force because of it, but that does not mean that she can magically gain the Force and bring herself to the ship. I refuse to believe that she should have the power of the Force. What I think should have either happened there is either she just flat out dies and that they lose Leia, or that and then they like extended that period and made it much farther into the film, and then made it so that it was after Rey already convinced Luke to like join their side, and then Luke came onto the ship, and then he used his Force to pull her back to the ship and save her life. Those are the only two options that I think would have been a good idea there. Now, yes, they could have came up with other things like not blowing up the ship at all or stuff like that, but I hate the fact that she used the Force there. Now, because she was put in the stasis, they brought in this other person who, yada, 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 wasn't really important until the end of the film. We're going to extend to, okay, to when she was important. She was letting everyone escape while she was being a decoy in the big ship. They were using their little ships and being cloaked to get to, wherever the heck it's called, to get to this other planet. And on the other planet, they then like would set up a base and all. And she was going to be a decoy. Now that didn't really happen because I was saying earlier, the master hacker, that was his deal with the bad people. He told them that that was probably the plan that they were doing. And then Bing Bada, I don't know why I was going to say like Bing Bada Ma'am. They started shooting at the ships instead of her. And then she did something that I will love with every ounce of my being. She turned around and she went into hyperspace towards all their ships, which is something I've wanted to see in Star Wars for the longest time. I wanted to see all the other Star Wars films do that because it's like, it is literally it is the biggest form of a kamikaze ever. And it worked miraculously. I don't know, miraculously. More like it worked fantastically. We'll just go with that. It destroyed like a ton of their ships, took out a chunk of Snoke's ship. It was incredible, and I wish that they did it sooner. But at the same time, I still love the fact that they did it then. And that was really the only importance of her, and blah, blah, blah. She's dead. But then I don't like the fact that, like, Rey just, like, up and left, and Skywalker, blah, blah, blah. And, then I really don't understand, or changing to a different area, when she like, purposely let herself get captured and went to Snoke, and with Kylo Ren. And then I really, really hate the way that Snoke dies. The fact I wanted him, and I think that he still should be the big bad guy. He should have lived through this movie and it been like both Kylo Ren and Rey at like their peak potential fighting him at once. Or something like that in the third movie or in movies after. The reason I say that is because he showed such incredible power. Like, he was using the Force in this movie like it was the simplest thing in the world. He, like, hijacked Kylo Ren's mind and put, like, a tracker, basically, in it of just pure Force. He could read Rey's mind to figure out where Luke was. He could just fling her around the building like it was the simplest task ever. He was just supreme with the Force. But he could not tell that Kylo Ren was slowly turning the lightsaber next to him. Like, he was describing what he was doing. He was saying turning the lightsaber and striking his true enemy as he was supposed to be killing Rey. And then it ended up cutting him in half. I think that was the dumbest thing ever. I think that he should have like started to say that, and then as the lightsaber, because this is what I was believing up until it happened, in that like as the lightsaber activated, the like both Rey and Kylo look up and they just see him holding the lightsaber and not actually stabbed by it, because that would have just been so cool. That would have been incredible. But no, they decided it's actually going to kill him. Now, this did cause something that I was very happy that happened, but I wish that instead what had actually happened is right as like that happened is when the lady launched her ship into their ship, and then it caused major explosions, and then Snoke decided, okay, I'm going to use my escape pod, and then told his little red soldiers to fight them. And that's what I was really happy about. When Snoke died and the red soldiers decided to fight him, I was the happiest person in the world for a moment. That was a badass fight, too. When Kylo Ren and Rey were just fighting those soldiers, and Rey was just getting destroyed for the most part, and Kylo Ren was killing them all until, like, the very end when Rey finally helps Kylo. It was just awesome. And I wish that they, like, did a fight with the red people sooner, because, like, in every other movie, it was like, hey, the red people, they're the best guards because they're guarding the Emperor. And then, nope. They get knocked out. They get killed instantly. They were just the most useless things in the world. But in this, they finally did something. And not only did they do something, but, like, it was one of the best fights in the entire thing. Like, these red people is who I'm talking about right here. It was one of the just best fights ever. And I was so happy when they did it. But I wish that instead it was when the other lady, the other general, as I was saying before, did my other really top favorite moment of like flying, doing hyperdrive into their ships. Right at that moment, then that would have caused like everything to start shaking, and those two would have like woken up, and then they would have got their lightsaber. Rey would have like got her lightsaber from General Snoke, and General Snoke would have got like scared or something from like the place being hit with that with the other ship. So then he would have gotten his personal escape pod, which he did have, because I did mention it in the movie. That's actually what Rey used to escape the craft herself. She would have gotten her own personal escape pod and then left. Or that he would have done that. And then they fight the red guys so that I get to see that, and then Kylo Ren joins the good side. Bam. Easy as can be. That's all you had to do. And with General Snoke and them, and then General Snoke would have lived, and then Kylo Ren good side, blah, bam, blah, 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 blam. Okay, but since that didn't happen, we're going to continue off of where the movie from there. Next, like, Kylo Ren went back to, he was, like, still on the dark side. He woke up a little bit later. Rey escaped. And then they got to the planet, and they were sending out distress beacons and all, like the rebels were, and no one came to help. They did, like, a last-ditch effort to fly into, like, the enemy base thing. And here's one of the, I don't see the logic in it, is how, what's his face, Finn, managed to survive the heat cannon. Like, yeah, I know he didn't get hit by the actual shot by it, but it was shooting off such heat that it was, like, moving all the snow and turning the metal door red, like, from heat. And, like, the fact that it melted off the gun on the side of, like, the plane that he was on, I don't care how old that ship was, that shouldn't have, like, melted off before he was at least at, like, boiling point. Like, because of its age, I can't understand. It's, like, more believable, but at the same time, he should have died from heat, from just, like, sweating too much, becoming way more exhausted than he was. He would have, like, had to be in the hospital with a lot of burns at that type of temperature. And I know it was just heat being sprayed at him, and it was kind of like standing in front of a heater. But if you set a heater high enough and keep your face inside of it and it's blasting hot enough at you, it will burn you. Your skin will slowly get hotter over time. It's not like the same thing, but it's sort of like if you boil water and then it turns into steam because you get past its boiling point and you put your hand right in the steam, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna feel like you're getting burned because you're getting burned from the steam. It's like the fact that it doesn't like matter, or the fact that he survived is beyond me. Now, I'm happy that he did and all, but the fact that they had that happen and he survived isn't really plausible. I guess, like, yeah, it is a movie about Star Wars and space and the Force and all that, so yeah, I can understand that isn't fully understandable, but still, this is a bit much. It's a bit much to believe. But then I was happy, finally, like, when Luke came out. Now, as I said earlier, I wish that Luke came out to save Leia forever ago after he trained Rey, and Rey fought like herself and then lifted his ship out of the water. That would have been cooler. And then I wish that Luke then fought like Kylo Ren, and he didn't actually like fight him because he used the Force hologram, which my friends and me are calling the Forceogram. He used that to live and to just like escape, and I think that's cool and all that he was capable of like creating a Forceogram, but I don't fully agree that that's what should have happened there. And I think that it would have been better if while he was fighting Kylo Ren, they actually like legit fought for a little while. That would have been a cool fight scene. And then right before the end, or even if they didn't actually fight, they would just he just kept dodging them, or dodging Kylo Ren, and then it got to like the very end once all the rebels managed to escape. It did what Obi-Wan Kenobi did in the movies forever ago, in the very first movie technically, but the fourth in the two trilogies, the fourth movie in like the actual Star Wars timeline, but the very first movie ever released, was when Obi-Wan Kenobi was fighting Darth Vader, and he just disappeared into the Force. Like, that's what happened to Luke anyway, when he just came at peace, and he just disappeared. I thought, okay, I like that way, but my friend actually brought this to attention to me, but I wish that he died the way that Obi-Wan did, where he didn't actually fight Kylo Ren, he just disappeared, and he just turned into the cloak that then hit the ground. That would have been just better, because he still would have been at peace and all. There you go. Would have been would have been a better ending. A better ending to Luke anyway. Then, now I would have been fine with that happening either way. As I was already saying, I wish that like Kylo Ren joined their team, and I wish that maybe Luke then, like, instead of that happening between Kylo Ren and Luke, Snoke was the one that started that fight and went down to the planet, the ice salt planet, the red salt planet, whatever the heck it's called. I forget the actual name of it. And then he fought Snoke for a little while, but just like using the Force and then using their lightsabers and all, blah, 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 blah. And then he turned into like the smoke form when Kylo Ren and Rey got away. But no. But we're going to go off of like the story that already happened, not what can't really be undone at this point. Now, I know I am saying my thoughts of like what I wish could have happened and what could have like been better, but still. And then, though there really isn't all that much left, like Rey uses the Force finally with like a legit, like before she could use it just to like move around lightsabers, but now she actually finally like moved some rocks and finally did something. And then they all got away and, you know, lived happily ever after until the next movie. But I really do like the way that earlier in the movie, like Luke was talking with the ghost version of Yoda, and he was gonna burn down the tree that had all the ancient Jedi texts in them. But you know, even Luke didn't read the ancient Jedi texts; he just knew of them. And was like, yeah, these are kind of cool. But then Yoda was actually the one that ended up burning down the tree by hitting it with lightning. But the ancient Jedi texts were actually saved. That's lovely. No, were saved by Rey being inside of her. Not being inside of her, being inside the Millennium Falcon, inside like one of the drawers, which they did a little sneak peek of with Finn opening the opening the compartment for it to put the blanket over Rose. And yeah. I do. That was one thing that I did really like. And the fact that like the lightsaber was cut in half, I'm not entirely sure what they're gonna do with that one. They're probably gonna have her build one, because that is like one of the things that the Jedi had to do in order to become like a legit Jedi. They had to build their own lightsaber. You have to get this special stone, and then you have to put all the pieces together using the Force, and then bam, you have a lightsaber. So, I definitely don't mind them doing that. I still wish that they did earlier what I was talking about, where she was trained by Luke and all, but still. And then it really ends with going back to the children from that rich planet, and showing like the one guy's holding a broom, but like in the shadow it shows him holding a lightsaber and all that, and it shows him like with the rebellion ring. So you can tell that he's gonna be some sort of Jedi in the future. Obviously not the same actor and all because a child, and you know, but still, like, because I'm pretty sure they plan on doing a trilogy even after this next movie, so they're gonna make 3 more after this one. I believe that's what they're doing. And if that is what they're doing, then he's definitely going to become like a Jedi in either the next one or the next trilogy. And I do really like that as well. So that has really been my thoughts with this. I guess we can do a real quick recap, which I wish Snoke was alive. I wish that Kylo joined the light side, or the good side, the Jedi. I wish that Luke died in a completely different manner. I don't think Leia should have lived in that, from her getting blown into space, or at least she was saved by like Luke instead of using the Force herself. I loved the fight that they had between like the Red Soldiers and Rey and what's his face, Kylo Ren. I don't like the fact that Finn woke up immediately from his coma. I do like the fact that they made Poe become like more mature later on in the movie. I wish that Luke trained Rey. And there was one more. Oh, and I love the fact that they did finally someone going into light speed into another cruiser. That was great. If you agree with anything that I've said during this video, please like give him some constructive criticism with like comments. If you have anything that you would have liked to see instead, or why things that you liked about the movie, you can also leave a comment about that. I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. And yeah, then maybe we can have like a discussion about it. And yeah, if you just like flat out like the video and want to see other my thoughts on either movies or the future Star Wars films, or like have a specific thing that you want to say, like any like anime or maybe a TV show that I have seen. There are very few. I want to watch like Rick and Morty and Game of Thrones. I don't really watch TV ever, but I kind of want to watch those shows. Only those 2 shows, to be completely truthful though. And yeah. So yeah, if you enjoyed, please leave a like or subscribe or both. And yeah. I bid you all adieu. Goodbye.